Before we get into today's episode, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Open Doors Open Mind YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and on our other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook and now TikTok. Links to all will be in the description below. But without further ado, let's watch the episode.
Good morning.
Right, mate.
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm all good.
I haven't stopped travelling. Just been everywhere.
Is that why you look a bit rough today?
Why would I say I look rough?
Well, just because obviously I thought
you should be saying nice things about me.
I did beforehand. I can't do it to everybody else, can I?
Yes, this is what a mental health podcast is all about. You start with a nice
I'll give
thing
you
at
an
the
up
beginning.
and a down. No, I just had a bit of a weird morning.
Oh, okay. Is that what you're acting out? Acting out on me.
Yeah, no, I'm just... guys reached out to me this morning that I've been helping, and he was trying to do something stupid.
Oh.
So...
Not ideal.
No, it's not ideal, but obviously it's part of the journey, isn't it? It's the up and downs and...
Yes,
bits
as
and
you know.
pieces. And so
At
I'm
least you were
basically
there.
telling him, mate, honestly, the way you're feeling right now is normal. It's not that it helps you right now, but trust me, what you're going through, I've been through. 1 minute you're up, then you're down. It's all part of the journey.
I came up with a nice analogy the other day.
Go on.
So, how many trees do you reckon you've seen this year? Just like driven past, walked by, just...
Thousands.
Yeah? What would you say? If you're going to say a number, just guess.
10,000.
10,000 trees.
Yeah.
And you sort of notice, because like they're all around and stuff like that, how many of them did you actually notice and stop and look at?
The fake one behind you.
No, that's it, because it's there all the time.
Yeah.
Fine. Now, so not many. So out of 10,000, you notice like one or two.
Now, I've got one in my next door neighbour's garden that I've been looking at quite regularly, because when I go out for a cigarette, the pigeons are there and they keep in my corridors, my alleyway. So it's like, yeah, that tree needs to come down.
So, the reason why I asked, so I asked you how many trees you noticed. You said about 10,000, okay? And it's like, have you seen and stuff and day to day? And then I say, how many have you paid attention to, like, in a good way?
None.
Yeah. Now imagine there were no trees apart from one in the entire world. Yeah? So there's no trees, just one tree. How do you reckon everyone would feel about that tree?
It'd be the best tree in the world.
They'd worship the tree, wouldn't they?
Good. Yeah.
There's only 1 year. So, you better worship you.
That was quite good. I'll give you that
That's
one.
all right,
That was
isn't
not
it?
bad. I like that one.
That's nice, isn't it?
I like that. Was really nice.
That's cool.
There
There
is
you
only
go.
one
That's
me.
what I can. There's only one you.
There is only one me. You'll never get the same again. They broke the mold with me.
They did.
Yeah, it was a bit
You're
broken.
one of a kind.
When they cracked it open, it was a bit broken.
You're one of a kind, and you're not.
Why
you
is
know,
my wires not working?
I don't know. You've been here all day.
I know.
Mental health check-in. Scale of 0 to 10. How is your mental health? From 0 being the worst to 10 being the best.
Well, when I first got here this morning, it was probably about 4 or 5.
Okay.
It dropped a little bit
Okay.
because obviously knowing that
Could you tell my voice went, okay, and it went, okay.
because the guy that's reached out to me this morning for help, it reminded me a little bit of where I was at that kind of stage of the journey, and if I had what the guy's got now, as in me helping him, I could have been a little bit better sooner, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or a little bit further along on my journey. I don't know, it just made it, I'm happy that he's reached out and hasn't done something he shouldn't have done, but I'm also thinking, where was anybody for me when I needed it? It's kind of a selfish thing and a positive thing all in one go.
I think you're allowed to think it, but you have to move on. You can't just stay in that moment.
No,
and
that's
stuff
what I
like
mean.
that,
Is
like-
I get it, and it's like,
But do you know what? I told you this, and we spoke about it before. The reason the stuff that may have happened to you was because you were then supposed to help the people in front. Like the people, you can't say that no one was there for you.
no,
No.
that's
Yeah,
a lie. My brother,
exactly. And your mum.
as in somebody that had been for. Well, I suppose I need to explain myself because that does sound a bit bad because there was a lot of people
Yeah.
that were there. It was having somebody that understands. So when he's writing a message, or the specific person's writing me a message,
By the way, that's the first time you got that word right.
specifically,
No.
what one?
No, you said it, but yeah, that word.
Yeah.
It's hard though,
Yeah, of course it is.
because like one's an ocean and one's like
Can you spell it? Because I can't.
probably not. We'll get onto that a bit later. It's fine.
It was knowing, as in, what does Rob call me? He calls me a superhero without a cape. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he was like, because you've done it and you're telling me what the next step of where it's coming, I'm kind of planning for the good day and the bad day. So I give him the tools and everything he needs. Whereas I wish somebody'd give me the tools earlier, because some of the thoughts
So
I had.
that wasn't your superpower. If you look at every single person who is a superhero, look at the trauma that happened that made them into that. That's all it is. That's why you are that person. Because their parents were taken away from them or something really bad. It happened. The whole planet exploded. If you're Superman, you know what I mean. But that's what happened. You can't have both.
No. And I'm glad I went for it, but it still hurts a bit, if that makes sense. I'm not
Yeah, but
quite
that's
far
why
enough
people
along.
come to you for advice. Because I don't want to come to people if nothing's happened to them.
True.
So
You
what's
don't
your number?
understand.
So what's your number now?
After that conversation, it's probably back up to a 5 again.
Okay,
'Cause it just makes me feel a bit normal.
good. I'm glad. Do you know what?
Go on.
Penultimate episode to halfway to 100.
We are.
49 episodes of doing this.
I've seen your face that many times.
It's a lot, isn't it? If you think about it, when I'm not here, do you miss me?
A little bit.
Yeah. You can't just say yes, can you?
No, because then you just get big head and you're going out the door.
What?
Oh, come on.
You gotta imagine you never saw me again. You'd be like, I didn't tell him actually.
Yes, I miss you quite a lot, mate.
Thank you. Anyway,
Just in case.
we'll get over the absolute complete self-indulgence.
Hang on. What's yours? No. You try to avoid this every week. Every week you try to avoid it. What is yours?
7.
Ooh. Why?
What am I normally?
About 5, 6-ish?
Okay, 7. There's some really good things that are happening that are quite stressful, but they're being asked to do stuff because they're trusting me. So that's quite nice. And there's loads of irons in the fire. And yeah, there's
Are we
things.
getting an exclusive? Is
Some
that what's happening?
no, some healing stuff as well that's been happening with some friends and family as well. So that's kind of happening because at the same time you can hold as much as you want to the past as a victim and to ransom, but at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is the next step that you take, not the steps that you took. Ooh.
All right. You're getting a bit deep this morning. So you're all good.
Yeah, I think so. And I like to. Last week I just cried because my friend's not doing okay, and he's not very good at telling me that he's not doing okay, and it really bloody annoys me. And it's not doing okay through mental health; he's not doing okay through health, and he's young, and it's a tough thing to take on because there's complicated webs that have been woven over time and over things that have happened, and all of a sudden he's not very well, and the people that I feel should step the hell up.
You're very. That's the one thing I learned on this whole journey. Whatever
They're
you wanna
holding
call
on
it.
to this past stuff too much, and I'm just
It's-
like, let go.
But you'll be surprised. What I was very surprised with, who came out of friends, family, bits and pieces that stepped up to help. The ones that I thought were going to be there or should have been there weren't there.
It's the most random ones. You're like, you?
Honest to God, literally. Obviously, my friend Luke, he will know. Obviously, when he watches this, he every day, morning mate, you good? And we ended up becoming friends for a friend of a friend of a friend, and it was like what? And just little things like even when it was my birthday, didn't think anything was going to happen. It was just in the end of lockdown. I was like, okay, it's my 40th. Didn't think nothing of it. Forget it. Brother picked me up.
You're 40?
Shut up. And my brother picked me up and turned up, and there were all my mates ready to go-kart. And I was like, whoa.
See?
Nobody had said nothing. It was all, they're all there. Everyone, I was like, fuck me.
Everyone's like, no one cares about me, and then everyone cares about you. So you're like, oh, okay, so don't take it for granted. Do you know what we need
Exactly.
to do?
We need to bring our guest on.
We need to bring
because
the
you've been
guest on.
talking too long.
No, it was a nice stuff. There was nice
It was
things.
nice.
Yeah,
and
it was
you're
good.
making me a bit. Yeah, it's time to man up.
We got a wonderful guest, Chelsea. Would you like to come and join us on the seat here? Anyway, Chelsea, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Tell us all about you, starting with your name, Chelsea Gordon.
Chelsea Gordon.
Yeah, it's nice. And
It's like Ramsey
Gordon.
Yeah.
Gordon,
There
yeah.
we go.
From Scotland, obviously.
Yeah? Is it? It's a Scottish name, isn't it?
Yeah.
it is,
So I'm fully Scottish.
Are you fully
I moved
Scottish?
here in year 5.
So you've lost the accent.
I kind of got bullied out of it, to be fair.
That's so mean. Do you get it back if you go home?
When I get angry or drunk, then it comes back.
It's like,
Oh.
Sometimes it's mixes, so people will say, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh, why?"
where,
Reading.
where in Scotland were you?
Aberdeen.
Aberdeen. Oh, that is an
Yeah.
accent as well.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Sometimes I go up there and I have no clue what they're saying. I'm like, and then they go, "Oh, would you like a cup of tea, Chelsea?" And I'm like, "Oh, please no." I know I'm English now.
Tell
always be blunt.
us about yourself and why you're actually here as well.
So I'm here because I feel like mental health was a really big part of me in 2019 and 2020.
Oh, yeah, that's why you had the headphones on.
2020, especially after I had my little daughter that's now 3.
Wow.
So that's a big, I really want to more talk to mums and stuff and try and like inspire mums to kind of get out and do more. Because I feel like us mums do sit, even if you're with a husband or got that life, you still sit at home quite lonely and not really have your own independence. So obviously I run a small business, which obviously I'm looking forward to this year because I feel like I've got my real good motivation now after I've healed through quite a lot of things. So I do nails and bits and bobs.
That's why yours look great, to be honest. They
Yeah.
got nails. I didn't notice them.
I also do press-ons as well, so I can do it for the whole of UK.
Oh.
So I can send to anywhere in the UK.
Well, you'll design them and then send it to them.
Yeah.
That's clever.
And they're not like them plastic, and not that you guys probably know anything about nails.
Of course,
but
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They're not like them-
he was being married. You must know a little bit about nails.
Of course I do.
And you've got a daughter.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course I
come
do.
on.
Well, see, they're perfect because press-ons, my ones last up to 3 weeks to 4 weeks because they're hard gel. They're not like the plasticky shop ones that break within a week. So they're really good.
I like that.
Just selling that.
Yeah, it's nice. What is the company called?
Sorry?
What's the company called?
So I've got 2 company names, but I'm trying to make, I'm kind of like playing around at the moment.
We can do a poll. We can find
So
out.
I've got my actual service business called Nailed It by C because I want girls to leave and be like, "Oh, nailed it!" Like
it. That's clever.
I
I
do.
like that.
and you know,
That's good.
like what's her name? Oh, what's the singer that goes hair did, nails did?
Oh wait, who?
Missy Elliott.
Oh, Missy. Oh, right.
You know
okay,
that
right, cool.
song?
Yes. I
Hair
know.
did,
So.
nailed it.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, nailed it."
That's clever.
And then I've got my press-on nails, which is just press-ons by C.
Okay.
Press-ons by... I like that one.
But I think that
Press-on
works.
by C,
You've
that
got-
sounds like a destination.
You've got the by
Yeah.
C stuff, so it's all good.
Because I kind of want to make it separate because I feel like it's different service. Because obviously with my service now, like when I'm doing one-to-one clients, I like they leave and they're like, "Oh, you're like a therapist." Because, you know, like some of these, like you always walk around people and everyone's on their phone and stuff. And then you look and you think, does anyone actually talk to each other at all?
No. That's, I think, we've had many discussions about if you put your phone down and all the rest of it. And
But even like, I went swimming with my daughter yesterday in Palmer Park, which I'll give Palmer Park a good due. The way that looks now is absolutely beautiful. But I was swimming with my daughter, and my daughter she's very like independent, and she wanted to play with all the kids. And I felt like every time we were going up to like any mums and stuff, they were like, "Can't want to swim away," apart from one mum. And I sort of think it's so like, and I was speaking to my mum about this as well, not yesterday, day before. So it's so hard as a mum to make friends these days because it's like you can't just go up to someone and you can chat, but then they'll. And
I
then
thought you women had like a secret society.
I feel like everyone's kind of as you get older,
generally.
it's harder.
No, as for what I've noticed is that mums have your friends, but then your friends might not be having kids at the same time as you, so then they're not free when you're free and with the time off and stuff like that. And then the dads still keep up with their hobbies. And I think the guys seem to have more hobbies than girls have hobbies because I have no idea why. And I feel like they do cycling or they go out to they go and play golf and blah, blah, blah. And so to meet new people, especially after COVID, which is definitely the worst, is when you had a kid, people are just like, I'm actually used to being by myself now.
Exactly that. And obviously you don't want your kids getting ill. It's like a panic. And I'm like, oh, God.
So hang on.
But I do... Sorry.
So as a mum then, because obviously my ex-wife used to say that I'm at home all day with the kids and you're out working. And I was like, yeah, I'm out working. She's like, yeah, but no, you get to speak to adults.
Yeah, you're socialising.
Is that an actual thing then? Because I thought it was just a case of...
Like, are you swapping places? And you know what I mean? In a situation, it is lonely because you're just known as mum. No one knows you as your name.
That's exactly what she said.
And do you know what? When my best friend, she's recently obviously she's got a 2-year-old now. And when she was pregnant, my first advice to her was, when you have the baby, it's going to be hard, but make sure you always be yourself, because you lose yourself so much. And I think so many people don't understand. When you give birth, your body changes. Whether it looks changed or not, your body does change. And so does your mindset. It's like, you know, like dads, I think, struggle as well, but they struggle more once the baby's here, as in mums struggle from the get-go. So they go through that whole 9 months not being able to go out with their friends drinking, not be able to wear certain clothes they love. So then when you have that baby and you just want to nest it, protect it, and then, you know, you don't see any adults and you're at work, it is a bit of like envy, jealousness.
I used to get jealous the other way around, as in...
And I had that with a lot of my partners.
I used to get jealous because you've carried the baby for 9 months, you've kind of got that connection. The baby's born and it's your baby. It's not really dad's baby or it's our baby, it's your baby. You don't
But then you're there to look after her. And I think, in the sense, she looks after the baby. It's those times.
Yeah, but I used to get jealous for it because the amount of time that
course.
you would spend with the baby would be less time that she would spend with me. And I know that sounds really bad.
Is she actually spending time with the baby when she's doing washing, cleaning, cooking, making sure you're okay, so you're able to go to work the next day, doing your packed lunch?
And you just do fun.
And when you come home, it is like, oh, I've got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then when you then leave, the baby's hyper or the child's hyper, and then who's left to deal with that? When maybe she just wanted a relaxed evening and have a bath and just be like, oh, I just want me.
My friend told me, she went,
I never thought of it like that.
My friend said, I don't think I've been to the bathroom by myself in 2 years.
What?
Do you know when I have a chocolate, I have to hide?
What?
I could be downstairs and my son Kobe, he's got the sweetest tooth going. Like, I have to watch him when he does his bloody... Oh, sorry.
You can say
Right,
bloody,
we say it all the time.
Weetabix. I'm like, a little teaspoon of sugar, Kobe, a little. Yeah, I have to physically, like, if I buy chocolate, I hide it in my top drawer. That
Do you think, obviously your partner would want to swap places with you and be the full time?
I'm not with him anymore, but...
But okay, but do you think most men then? Because at
know
one
what?
point I did.
At one point, but I don't think for the duration until they
Not
go
when
to
they turn
bloody
into
school.
teenagers.
I
It changed.
think men would want to until they realise how hard it actually is and how lonely it is.
It's super lonely. And you just don't have any friends. This is one of the things I've noticed, actually, and you'll have this. If you don't have kids, you miss out on this weird thing of actually making friends, because your next friendship group is your kids' friends' parents.
Which I want to touch on that as well. I feel like mums are the worst judgmentals on other mums. So, obviously, I'm just me. I am who I am. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Whatever I believe is a mum might be different to the next mum. So it's very hard when you're like speaking to mums. I might say, oh, you know, my kid has breakfast at 9 a.m. on a weekend. They might be a really early mum. Oh, how can you just stay in? Do you know what I mean? Like the most littlest things, they might think, oh, that's not right.
Do you think mums do that then?
Oh.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
And or you get the other side of it where it's hard to find mum friends because mums don't see adults. When they do see adults, it's, I want to have a drink. Now my son's 9 and he's never ever seen me drunk. Never seen me drunk. If I'll have a drink, like 1 or 2, but I do not want my son to see me drunk. And there's no judgment on any mums that want to do that. But Kobe has severe asthma. He's allergic to dust, eggs. He's allergic to so much. He needs an EpiPen. So the last thing I want is emergency to happen. And I'm there like, oh, you all right?
I'm hungover or drunk.
Yeah. So I just see it as when my mum's got my kids or my dad or he's with his dad, then that's my time to kind of act like a child.
Well, then you're allowed
That's not
to.
a bad way, right?
Because what's happened to my friends, a lot of them have broken up, and you know, and some weekends they don't have any children. And they're like, oh my goodness, let's go out. And they're like, and they go to go out, and they're like, I'm quite tired. It's 8:30 now. So
I
should we
quite
just
liked it when me and my ex were on talking things that it was kind of 50-50 because I had like a week with them. Oh, Monday morning, see ya.
But then you missed them.
Yeah, by the end of the week, not the first couple of days,
think-
it was like, yep, I'm doing what I like.
I think when you get 2 nights, I think the first night you enjoy, but the second night you're like, I can hear them in the house and they're not even
Do you
here.
think it goes too quiet? When it was like that for me, it was too loud when they were there,
Yeah, it's
and
chaos.
too quiet when they weren't there. That's how I found. But so obviously with you, so you had the baby in lockdown.
So I had her in February and we went lockdown in March.
Oh,
So yeah, and obviously I've always suffered with mental health anyway, but my mental health went severe. Not to mention the ex that I was with. I don't want to say he done it on purpose because I don't know what he was thinking, but I feel like there was not much support on that side with me. But my mum and everyone pulled together and did help me, but obviously I had to be on my own for that period of lockdown.
yeah.
And I was severely bad that I ended up in hospital with a big gash in my head, which then that's when it got a bit serious with obviously the professionals around me. And that's when I kind of looked and thought, what do I need to change in my life? And it was get rid of the relationship. I've only just moved house recently after a whole year of struggling with the council.
I know that struggle.
And my aim now is just to try and speak to others and help others. I am still healing, which I think a lot of people think, like I heard you say, like, you know, you've got to move on from it. I feel like it's not moving on from it. I feel like it's accepting it. I feel like when you accept something, you then can kind of
I can relate with that one. Accepting
move.
what's happening.
Because I think so many people say, like, you know, why are you still thinking about that? Just move on from it. And it's like, you know, I always say, like, how I explain to people is if you were in a really severe car crash, that you were in a coma for like ages, and then you woke up from that coma.
Coma?
Oh, something on the brain there.
Coma,
Getting hungry now. It's fine. Yeah, it's good.
Coma.
Yeah.
You'd have to learn to walk, talk, you know, explain things. That is kind of what like mental health is. Like when you get through such bad trauma, you could spot that yellow car that crashed into you and you would just then have a panic attack. So when you're then dealing with a trauma and then you get into relationships or friendships that you struggled with, you then have to learn how to accept and kind of work out how you manage it. So rather than just moving on from it, because I did say, like, I did write a thing underneath your...
Yeah, that's...
Which is what I kind of meant. Like, I don't think you can ever move on from traumas, but you can have hope and, like, manage it by looking at it in a different view. So with my traumas, I look at them as, like, as you said, like, I do feel like it's happened to me so I can help others. So I can say to a mum, you're not alone. Like, so many mums out there literally sit at home, no matter what they look like or what they do, they're probably sat there thinking, I wish I just had a friend to call and be like, my kids are doing my head in today. Can you just relate to me, please? Rather than feeling
This
like...
is normal.
My kid, like, because you always see it at schools, like, all the mums are like, oh, yeah, my kid's this, my kid's that. And no one ever turns to someone and says, do you know what, I've really had a really hard day today with my kids, and you know, I just don't think they like me. And to be fair, I'm really struggling to like them at the moment. Like, and that is a part of reality. And I feel like so many people are just so scared to say that just in case we get a bad name, when really it is like, you can not like your mum for a day because you're with her too much, or your partner, because when you're with someone 24/7,
Yeah.
you get tired.
Don't look at me.
You get so tired.
So if advice-wise on that then, for new mums that are about to obviously give birth, and what advice would you give them for that?
I would say make sure you keep being yourself, because no matter how much you try to be perfect, and my son's 9 and this is when I've started to realise, don't try and be so like happy, cheerful around. They're allowed to see you cry. They're allowed to see us struggle, as long as it's not too much that affects them. And to always be just yourself. Like, make sure you spend time by yourself, even if it's like they go to bed. Make sure, as much as you're tired, if you feel to read a book, do that reading. Like, keep on your mindset on who you are. Don't lose you, because a mum is just a name. It's not a person as such. So you just make sure you're yourself, because that's all your kid needs. You had that kid because that kid obviously needed you some reason. Like, I believe I had Kobe because, one, I needed him and he needed me. I needed to be his mum for him to be who he is today, the most caring, kind-hearted. And I needed him at the time because I was very lost, in the sense of to be fair, I don't mind touch base in this, with males and my view on males back then. As in now I've got a son, I look at males and the way they think and stuff very different now.
So
I just think, I think...
It's experience as well. Life is an experience, and people go, "Oh, I didn't know that," until it happens to them, and you're like, "Oh, okay."
And you're not a bad person. Like, if you... Like, sometimes I see mums out, like, first night out, and they're so panicky. And I'm like, you haven't got your kids. Are they with safe hands? Yeah, they're with their dad. Then let the dad bond with the child. Just because you're the mum doesn't mean you have to...
I never got the bonding,
cuddle.
not till they could talk. As a dad, I didn't bond with my kids. I always felt on it outside for years and years and
But
years.
you were working nights. That's difficult.
No, like, obviously now that we're separated, as obviously we've spoken to, I didn't realise what, even now I've just clicked on certain things that would happen with and I'm like, oh shit, I could have dealt with. What advice would you give to a dad then? Because hearing this now, I realised, oh shit, I could have done something very different.
I think men, though,
Very
I think
different.
it's quite hard because men are very stubborn, aren't they? Like most men anyway.
Yeah.
So when you tell a man what to do, especially when it comes from their own pack, because they want to be the leader and the provider and the protector, it's very hard as a woman to say to your man, like, you kind of shout rather than speak. But I really think, like, if you're in a relationship and you've got a kid, you need to make sure you're sat down and just, like, so I make a rule now. If I've got if I'm with someone, I say to them, right, before we talk, if it gets heated or we feel to shout over each other, we take a minute to the other room and then we come back and address what we're trying to address, because we need to hear each other out. Otherwise, the relationship fails. Your kids kind of be in the mix of it.
Pick up on it, yeah.
So you really need to just take time and actually get to know each other still. Just because you're a dad and she's a mum, it doesn't mean you have to lose each other. Like, you can still get to know each other, because when her mindset's changed and your mindset's changed because you're mum and dad, learn that. Enjoy each other's about, like, you're a bit more of a caring man because you've got a child and you want to do that. She's wants to be a bit more, I don't know, independent. Help her with that, rather than be against it, that she needs to be at home and you need to be at work. Not that that's what
that's
most mums and dads,
things, isn't it? It's 90% of the thing.
And that is why I did my business. So at the time I was working at Boots in the Oracle, and I didn't really feel at home there at all due to certain reasons. And I just looked and I thought, right, if I go and get a job elsewhere, I then have to deal with another manager that's not going to be really, like, thoughtful or nice when I want a day off for my kids if they're real sick or whatever. So I thought, what is it Chelsea really wants to do? And I thought, I really love teaching. I love inspiring people. I love nails. I love doing hair extensions. Like, I do it all. So I thought, right, let's leave and pay. So I don't go to college. I paid out my own money to do courses on the side of different companies, but I did a lot of research on what brands and stuff I was going to. And then now I'm starting to grow. Once my daughter goes to school, I'm hoping to do my teaching degree, and then I want to go around maybe young teens that are, like, struggling, speak to them, the ones that kind of don't fit in at school as such and feel lost and feel like there's no way out. I want to help them because I don't feel like there's a lot for girls around. It's one thing that I've learned from working at the youth club. And I just want to inspire other mums, like, you can have your own independence. Especially if, like, there's so many women out there that are probably with a partner that's not very nice to them and they can't get out because of money situations. It's kind of like, take your own and you can get out and you can live the life you want to live. You just got to take ownership and just get out there.
I think you're doing some great stuff. I think the element of putting yourself out there and helping, this is what I said to you, Scott, is that sometimes you do have to have the trauma because your job actually, and the reason why you might be here, is not for you.
Yeah, 100%.
It's for other people, and this is exactly what, you wouldn't wish what happened to you on anyone, but you making it through, which many don't, you making it through to then send a message out to other people going, hey, you're not by yourself. There are things you can do. There's people you can talk to, and you're okay. And I think that's a lot of things that I go, I talk at schools and stuff like that. And I, talk, the youngest are like 7 years old. I'm doing it next week. And I know when I ask them to say, can you say one good thing about themselves? There'll be a proportion in that class that will be like, I don't like anything. And you're already on that, like, step of, like, hating yourself.
Have you tried it when you're there? So when I went to college at 16, I did childcare, and we done this really cool thing in the lesson. So you like fold up a piece of paper and you send it around, and you have to say a nice comment for the person next to you, and then the person gets it back and it says all these lovely comments.
That's
So
really nice.
I could I opened it up and it might say like, Chelsea's really thoughtful and thinks of others, and I could be sat there thinking I'm so selfish, but then when I read that I'm like, oh, actually I've helped that person out of a
There's a saying.
situation.
There's a
Just-
saying. Are you who you think you are, or are you who other people think you are? And I think what you actually are a mix of both.
Yeah.
a
Good and
thing.
bad. No, but good and bad. That, that the element is that like we've all made terrible decisions.
Nobody's perfect, and that's the bit you've got to remember.
But what is?
that
But
no one-
I wouldn't even like anyone if they were perfect. You know what I mean? Like,
Is that why me and you get on?
because you're perfect?
No, because I'm not perfect.
You're so perfect.
And I think that's why a lot of relationships struggle, because people want that perfect.
Hmm.
As in, sometimes it's like, maybe enjoy the bit that you don't have perfect. Maybe that's what you need, not the actual perfect.
Yeah, listening to what you just said, there's things that I should have done different when I had
you
kids.
know this though.
Yeah, and
I think all of us, if I look
because
back in my
I don't
life,
think sometimes, from a man's point of view, you don't. Because I always felt like I was on the outside.
But did you
And I
ask?
thought I was worse, and it's forgetting, like you said, you need to have that conversation. Because I used to, we're in the same room, but it's literally the kids all over,
And
all the
can
time.
I just ask, did you deal with your trauma or your, like, before or after that?
During.
During. I think that's a big part to play as well, because I think a lot of people think so I was speaking to my mum as well about this. So when you're going through like talking therapy or healing, I think it's really important, because when you're with someone, it's so difficult to go through that with them, because you rely on them a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly, from my
Which
point
is-
of view, I would have said the moment I broke is probably the way. Something changed in our relationship, because I was always like, if the kids were naughty, wait till dad gets home. I'd come in, I would discipline the kids. If there was something wrong, I would sort it. If she was ill, I would look after it. If I was ill, no one looked after me. I was what I would call the man in the house, in the old traditional way of it. That's a man's job. This is a woman's job. It was very much
Which
like that.
I feel like that needs to change a lot, because we've moved on from that. Like, not many people really get married these days, I don't feel. There's a lot of,
No.
or if they do, they get
Marriage
divorced
isn't
quite
what it
quick.
used to be.
And
That's
It's
my opinion.
because there's ways out.
And I
now.
think that's because in the mindset, like, I'm 30 and, people still like look at me and think, oh, are you going to get married? Are you going to, for instance, my best friend, she doesn't really want to have kids and she wants to live a luxury life. To be fair, I don't even think she wants to get married. She's so like not into that. And I just think so many people kind of look at and think, why aren't you? And I just look and think, no, fair play. Go and live your life. If that's
Go
how you
and
want
do
to
what
do
you
it, do
wanna
it. And I think that's what needs to be brought into relationships. Sit down and speak about what your aims and goals are in the relationship. If you're with someone that really inspires to get married, then you need to look as a man or a woman and think, right, is that what I want? Do we work towards that? And I think in relationships, so many people don't sit and actually talk about what they're...
No, we didn't. Towards the end, the kids, because the kids were so like my daughter with an AVM, so that all of them had a different problem. So pretty much our life was get them to school or go to the hospitals or do this. We didn't have me and her time in, and that pissed me off.
But you didn't prioritize it either. I know you're saying you didn't have any time. and I know there's 4 children, but you didn't prioritize it. And in that situation, all I
No.
hear is excuses. I don't hear solutions. I don't hear people
No, but see,
saying,
you get caught up in because it comes,
don't-
you think, oh, I'll do that next week. And before you realise it's 6 months down the thing. And the one time I showed weakness, I say weakness, it's not classified as weakness. Any man can cry. I broke down. I literally had been living
but it
and
was
put
too
an
much.
image.
But it was too much for
And
her.
that's what I'm saying. I broke because I broke. It then broke everything in a relationship. Whereas what you're saying, if you talk, it should never get to
And
that
if
stage.
It should be like when you're with someone. I think when you've got kids, I don't believe it's 50-50. I can tell you that now.
No,
But when you're in a relationship, it should be 50-50 communication.
correct.
And you should help each other. So it's just as much like, for instance, I look at my mum and my stepdad that were together for years. When she split up with him, like all them years ago, I didn't really like my stepdad then. Obviously, I love him now. Sorry, mine. But when I look back now, I think, do you know what? My mum should have tried harder and so should have he. Like, I look at that, it's total different aspect of what I think when I was 17, when my mum moved out. And I think it's up to a woman and a man to sort out your relationship. It's not up to anyone outdoors. It's not up to. It's about you two.
You form a two-handed circle is the way I
it's a
see
team. It shouldn't
As
be.
soon as you break it, and that's what happened. The moment I broke, the circle broke, and then everybody else had their input, and you should, and my mates were saying, she shouldn't have done that, you should have done it, and then same with her, and parents, and everybody had a different opinion. And before you know where it is, you've lost communication.
It's only
between
you
the two.
two. That's the only
And that's the
people.
bit that happened. It broke to the point of we were together 20 years, married for 11.
Which is commendable, you know what I mean? Like,
Something changed.
Maybe you were only meant to be together to see each other's views and learn from it, and then move on to your actual happiness.
I don't think enough people, from listening to what you said, I always thought it was like, I just like listen and just, I wouldn't say nothing back. I'd come in the door, the kids have done this, or I've done that, and you've done this, and I'm like,
And then she'll say, I feel alone, and then you think, well, you don't hug me when I come in.
there you go.
I've heard that.
And then
quite a few times.
I go, like, but I've just come here. I've popped in on my lunch break to make sure you're right because you rung me this morning, you're all upset and crying. Well, and then obviously I got selfish. Then I started resenting, going, well, when do I get you? When do you pop into me? Or
how are you going to make that situation better by saying?
and I didn't,
putting
and that's
yourself
what
into it?
happened. I
You
ended
can't.
up seeing it as a negative
No.
rather than, hang on, when you were ill, I did this. When I was ill, where did you go? You went out shopping, or you went out with the kids. Well, that was my way of helping you, giving you peace and quiet. Well, and it was then you ended up, rather than talking, saying this is what I want or would like, and all the rest of it, it ended up. She resented me, I resented her.
I'd be nice and saying, do you know, I know you want to take the kids out to help me, but I could just really do with a nice snuggle.
Yep. And it was hard to sometimes to say, I just want to just.
But I do think men struggle with
Yeah.
actually their saying what they want, like, because obviously I got 3 brothers, and I feel men are grown up to be lions. They're told, you know, don't cry, don't do this, don't
Correct.
do that, and then they come into the big bad world of having their own kids, and they deal with emotions too late, and then they don't know how to manage it, and then they lose a lot through that period of time. And I think, obviously, me as a mum with a son, I sit down to him, and when he cries, I'm like, baby, cry, it's fine. If you're sad about something, get that emotion out. Do not hold it back. Unless he's crying over something that's not.
You're like, whatever.
Like if he's literally tripped, and I'm like, come on, get out.
What do you mean you can't have
And I
the
do that to my
chocolate
daughter as well. I'm like, come on,
Because
you don't
some-
cry about that. We have to move on with that.
Because I can't tell if you're actually hurt.
Yeah.
Because when I noticed because I I've got nephew and niece and I was teaching for ages stuff, is when the kids say they're okay when I see they're hurt themselves.
That's when they're not okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
Quick run.
Because obviously for my role, my job, whatever you wanted to call it, is, and I made this mistake quite a few times in my relationship, like she'd go out with her mates. I'm like, right, I'm babysitting tonight. You don't babysit your own kids. All right, it was a figure of speech.
oh my God, you are loud, aren't you? In OAS, I just realised
Sorry,
that.
mate. Sorry.
But yeah, you're right there. I've heard that as well. I'll babysit the kids.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I'm not paying you.
no, but it was, I don't know.
Is that how it felt though?
They didn't feel like my kids. They obviously were my kids. Like my job was, I'd come through the door. Well, they've come off their scooters. They've got a bleeding nose. Go to dad. So I'd put them back together. Like they'd hurt themselves. They need stitches. Dad takes them to hospital. Like even when we split up, I was on a date. I get a phone call. You need to take your son to hospital. I'm 40 odd miles away. Yeah, you need to come back. Take your son to hospital. What?
Well, she
All
can't.
that
She
kind of
can't though.
No, it's hard to explain. I had certain jobs as a dad. Like I taught them how to change the bikes, fix the punctures, how to put the doors up, how to fix the thing when they put an hole in the wall. And it got to that kind of stage where
And
it
that's
was,
why daughters need to be taught all these things too. So then
And
they don't
that's-
need a man.
and
But
that's
then
what
they
I
don't
tried
want
to
to.
do.
They don't want to learn
But
those
Daddy
things. It's
was-
a weird thing sometimes. Not saying that every single girl, but like the end element of the gender kind of thing of how boys and girls are. You have one of each, right? They come out with a personality like that. And you're like, I haven't even imprinted on you in any capacity, in any way, and they are already showing traits of stuff like, how do you even know this?
Yeah.
I think that's when you have to know. This is why I always say, like, be yourself as a mum and a dad, because you then don't. If you're constantly trying to be like, it's kind of like being a teacher as such. Like, if you're constantly trying to be that big, perfect person, obviously a teacher does have it hard because they've got all this multiple kills, so you have to have that structure. As in, like, a mum and dad, you don't have to be like, that is that and that is that. Like,
Yeah.
Both my kids are totally different. Like Kobe is so like sweethearted, natural protector, cares. Like, I mean, I always say he's my hero. He's the one I was always meant to have. And Aaliyah was the one that made me see change. So I had to have Kobe to survive and actually move on with some things, and Aaliyah to move different ways. And I look at them and I think, right, that works with you. That doesn't work with you.
Yeah.
Because their personalities are different. So Aaliyah, I can imagine she'll probably learn to build a house for all I know. She's so independent. She's like, no. And she's free. Like, she dresses herself. She talks really well. Kobe, on the other hand, he's like, Mum, I need you. And I'm like, okay, right. And same with like punishments as well. Like, it's very different. And I think when you then know yourself as a mum, you then can know your children better. As in when you're constantly trying to be this perfect man, perfect woman, as in like mum and dad, I think you end up losing.
I lost myself because I had this whole
And you lose your child
image.
as well.
I had the whole image. Like, it's only, in one way, lockdown helped me with my kids because I had time. I learned to be with them, and it was like, because obviously I've got Scott Jr., Charlie and Benjamin, the boys, and obviously I've got my daughter who's 17. But the boys are all roughly a year apart, and they've all got such different personalities. And the youngest ones, I found their brothers and sisters would do everything for them. Everything. And it wasn't until I sat there and watched and had time to just be with them, like I spent an hour each day or once a week, like one-on-one with each of them, did I get to know them as...
So that
who
was
they
your
are.
time. The
Yeah, but I
beginning
didn't
time
have
wasn't
that
your
before.
time, and later on
And
might
that's
have been
another
your
thing.
time.
So through my talking therapy, so I had so much guilt especially with like Aaliyah and Kobe through my really bad downtime. I had so much guilt with that I lost this with Kobe and I lost that with Aaliyah. And I just look and I think, when I look at my mum, and I know she's been through absolutely hell and back in her life, and I don't blame her one bit for the way she is. And I would say me and my mum probably have a great relationship now than what I ever have had. And I don't hate her for that. I just look and think, you know what? She sat down with me and she said, this is what happened to me in my past and this is why I acted a certain way. I've accepted that. And I'm like, you know what, Mum, you're actually really doing well. Like, for everything you've been through, you are amazing. And one thing I'm really proud of is that you are my mum. And I've probably lost a lot of time with my mum if I look back of certain things that she didn't notice and stuff. But I just think you can always gain time back with your kids and people. You just got to learn to forgive yourself first rather than take that that hate on yourself, because then you bring it into your children without even realising.
Yeah, because I was at certain points, I feel guilty for having my mental health breakdown and the damage and some of the stuff that I did and said. But like, perfect example, yesterday, you know what we did, I said about my son and everything like that. We were doing the washing up. I'll come in, there's plates on that over the side, and you come in from school, and he's like, do you want me to give your own, Dad? And I was like, no, you go out, your mates, it'll be fine, I can do this. He's like, Dad, do you want me to dry it up? He said, because you're going to load that draining board up. And I was like, yeah. He said, do you appreciate what I did? Do you appreciate me? And I was like, and then he's really weird. He come out with, if I disappeared tomorrow and you never saw me again, would you miss me? Yeah. He goes, I know you are. I'm your favourite. I was like, you're not my favourite. I treat you the same. He's like, Dad, don't lie. I'm your favourite.
I don't
and
think
I showed him, you know, the short that we did on Instagram, and he just smiled and went like, thanks, Dad. I walked off.
I don't think that because what number is he?
He's the second born.
His second.
So he's
right.
my eldest son, but
Yeah.
second in line.
It's funny with parenting, and what I've seen is that, and people forget this, especially with the first child gets 100% love.
Yep. Oh,
And
my
then
daughter
after
was
that,
so spoiled.
After
spoiled.
that, it's not that you can't give the second 100% love, but you can't because there's already one there already.
Yeah.
And so there's this element of like this kind of like, who do you like more? Who's your favorite? Who's your and that will come more a bit later for you. But you might have
It's
it a little
already,
bit now,
yeah, no,
yeah.
Kobe,
And
yeah.
you definitely have it and stuff like that. But the element is, it's just like, especially with children, like I swear, parents, what I see, you don't really have favorites. You just be like, I just like you more today. And that's what I see.
Yeah, do you know what, right? with my daughter, her
Even
first
this hour, you know what I mean? Like,
she had
you're
double
annoyed.
beds, everything. She had her first proper bed from a cotton bed. So it was double bed. She had walk-in wardrobes, her living room, a
The
wardrobe.
boys are all
with-
sharing, aren't they?
Yes, the 3 boys, and she had a whole room. It was probably about. I'm not joking you. It was probably about as big as this
She was the
whole room.
firstborn. She's the
Right?
firstborn.
She got all the Christmas. Her first Christmas, she was 1. You want to see the amount of presents. When it got to Benjamin, who's the youngest, it was like, yeah, there's a voucher.
No, here's a dolly that your sister didn't want.
Oh, the hand-me-downs. He used to get all the hand-me-downs. We got bigger than the other brothers, but yeah, he used to get all the hand-me-downs. Where Sadie would get brand spanking new trainers. Benjamin, bless him, by the time he got to him, he's like, that's been through 2 of my brothers before I got it. Yeah, well done, mate, because
But those things happen also. If there was more girls, then that wouldn't be the same situation.
I couldn't have
and
dealt
all
with 4
that.
girls.
You would have been fine.
I think if I
No
had my daughter
way.
first, I don't think I would have had any more, to be honest, and I've only got 2.
They always say that girls are harder at the beginning and less.
No,
and they just-
no.
My daughter's
no.
just a different kettle of fish.
Okay.
but-
For a male, for a male,
Okay, well, you're both
me and my
saying it, and I
daughter
don't
were like
get
that.
it.
We were thick as thieves. And literally, me and my daughter was thick as thieves. Like, she'd come sleep on me. We'd go swimming. We'd go do all the. She got into a teen. I like, Dad, can you plait my hair? I was plait her hair, wash her hair. Whatever. Now, 17, 18, don't want to know, Daddy.
For now,
No, I'm
no,
When she wants
for now.
something.
But then later
You
on,
reckon?
it will
Because
change.
we are
I
completely
can tell you now,
It will
different.
change.
as-
You'll come back. You know this, don't
Yeah,
you?
especially when you have a kid. Me and my stepdad, obviously I count him as my dad, he raised me, so but me and him get on so much better now than I think ever.
Because I do feel like we were so close, and all of a sudden, obviously, a lot of things have happened in the last couple of years. Like, we are very.
All I would
completely
say
different.
is don't ever tell her not to do something, because she'll do it.
Yeah, I worked
What
that
to do
out. I
is-
worked that out the
I
hard
always
way.
say this to men. Men are really, especially dads, don't wear that skirt, it's too short. Stop saying that. Teach your daughter what a man would think if you're wearing that skirt. So a man will approach you and will probably think like this, because us women, we grow up with so many people saying, don't do this, don't do that. Like we're back in the 70s or whatever.
Yeah.
We need to understand why. Like, why are you telling me this? Because I want to go and do it now to know why. And I say that, like, stop saying don't do something to
That
girls.
explains a
because
lot with my sisters, actually. That kind
my
of.
brother, Steve, I don't know if you know Stephen, but he used to be terrible with me. I used to have to sneak my clothes outside and change in my friend's house because I was like, I am wearing that shorts like that.
I am wearing
I remember the
this
first time he saw me in clubbing and I was actually 17 and I asked him all week, are you going to walkabout this weekend? Are you going? Obviously, I'm like 30 now.
So
it doesn't
whether
matter.
you know if to go with Yates's or Walkabout.
Yeah, and he was like, no, Charles, why do you keep asking? And then I remember walking and walkabout and I just saw him and then I was like, and I got
See,
a
I
right
felt
bollock
like-
in.
What are you gonna
Not
say?
that actually, I'm not telling anyone about
With my
No,
daughter,
it's
I learned very quickly with her not to. I don't know if it's a male's point of view. Like my daughter, she was 17, and she's like, Dad, could you get me? You know, you're a doorman. Could you get me into a nightclub? And and I'm like,
Don't do it.
You can, but don't do
why?
it.
I said yes, I could do it. Blah blah. And then
You have no
she's
control.
17, so she's asking me an adult thing. So I'm like, okay, well she's she acts a bit mature. And then she's like, you're going in the shop. I was like, yeah, come on then, we're going in together. She's like, oh no, that's embarrassing. I've been there once a day. Can you get me some tampons? And I was like,
Oh, you spoke about this, yeah.
and I was like, if you're man enough or mature enough to ask me to go to a nightclub, what are you gonna do? Call Dad when you? And I've apparently, according to every woman that I've said this story to, like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, hey, have I said something wrong?
Yeah, I think you need to ask why she wants to go clubbing. Why?
Look at that.
It's the same with alcohol. I always say to people,
Everyone had a go at me. Not because they said, well, you should have helped her. A lot of women said, well, you did it underage. Yeah, but I didn't get my dad to do it. A bit like you just can't. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But you should go in the shopping mall. And I'm like, you're asking me to go in a nightclub to drink with adults, with people like me around. But you want Daddy to go and buy the tampons because you're embarrassed because you'd already been in their shop. And it's like,
No one cares if you've been in the shop before. Only you care.
and you don't know why. Like maybe she had a
I
headache.
know. Yeah, and that's no, I worked that out. But as a partner, I'm like, did I say something wrong? Or is there a right or wrong answer to that? Is it a male's view or a female's
You
view?
have to stop thinking that there is a right or wrong. It just is that moment, and it doesn't have to be. Did I do it right? Did I do it wrong? No. It's just that moment. You just learn from it. You go, okay, I will change it, and I'll do this instead.
Or if you feel that bad about it, sit down with her and ask her. Could have Daddy done something better in that situation, or what would you have liked Daddy to do next?
Also, I don't want you to be lazy, so
You
you
know.
can't just make me do stuff because you.
That's how I felt. Like it's like you cheeky. So you're gonna sit in the van while I go back into the co-op. Come on, shut up. And I
But
was like,
then
shut up,
this
come
is
with
when
me.
I say, like, this is when men need to look and see what
See,
your
I didn't
daughter
bother-
wants to be with in years to come. If she was having a heavy flow and
Yeah,
her
no.
partner was there, would you want him to go? Because that's it. She's going to base her true loves by her dad and the male
And that's
model
one
she
thing
has
that
around
my ex-wife
you.
does. She said, when, like, all right, okay, you have arguments in a relationship. Some things I've said, she's like, would you let someone talk to your daughter like that? And I was like, no. She's like,
Stop talking to me like that.
and that's exactly what she, I was like, and that stopped me with certain things that I did and said. It was like, would I allow a guy to treat? No, I wouldn't. So then, all right, that means that I am. If I wouldn't allow my daughter to be spoken to or treated like that, that means I am doing something wrong. And that's how I kind of judged, like, no, because if she had done what you just done, I would expect the guy to have a gutting. And that's kind of how I worked out in my life, that if I wouldn't let my daughter be spoken like that, then that means I'm doing something
It's
wrong.
all learning. We learn every single day. There's so much for us to speak about, and I'd love for you to come back. And we were speaking beforehand about dyslexia and stuff like that, and I really would like to get into those situations. Where can people find you if they do feel like they're struggling or they do want their nails done?
Okay, so my business name is at nailed it. Oh, wait there. At nailed_it by C.
Nice.
Or you can get press-ons at press-ons by C. Or my actual personal Instagram is, I believe it's Gordon Chelsea something.
Is that the one you
If anything, I could take a little picture and post, and you can just share it on your.
We'll
your
get
show.
Kai to do his magic.
Yeah, we'll do it. Easy,
Kai does his magic.
Too much to remember for my dyslexia self.
How have you felt, doing this and, being on the...
Was you more nervous?
I'll probably be more nervous when I see myself, because my mental health's more about my physical appearance, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't know if we got enough time to
We
talk
got
now.
time. Keep
Yeah.
going.
So when I was in my bad state, I felt like I needed, so mine wasn't like alcohol or drugs or like scratching, like, the usual. Mine was Target in my face. So I used to just hate the way I looked. When this is in obviously 2019, 2020. So I used to target my face and it was like a crave of punishment as such to myself. So if something went wrong and I just felt really lost, I just felt like it was the way I looked and the way I am is why everything was happening to me. So, and obviously I didn't want to overdose myself or anything because I've got kids and I used to talk myself out of it. But yeah, I used to really struggle with the way I look. So coming on today is a big thing for me.
There's two things you can do with this. So I do it with photographs, right? I have a theory of photographs. So if you don't like how you look in photographs and someone takes a picture of you, look at the photograph tomorrow. Don't
Do you
look
know
at
what?
it today.
It's not about so someone could post a photo, I won't really care.
No.
But at the time of my bad point, I couldn't even look in the mirror.
Right.
I literally didn't want to look at myself. Like I was disgusted. I was my own bully in my head, and it got that bad that obviously I had to explain to my son like what it was like. And I said, because obviously he was seeing stuff with me, and he couldn't. He obviously kind of saw it and was trying to work it out. And I just said, do you know what? I've got a monster in my head that I can't help, but I'm going to get help, and I'm going to try and work on it and try and get better. And obviously here I am today, which I don't believe I was going to be here today. From when I look back, I was really, really bad. And I heard you before I came on about, the support you had. And I think a lot of people look at mental health and think, I didn't have anyone around me. And when you actually stop on your good day, you actually think, I had a lot of people around me. But then you see it and you feel down because you're like, but it wasn't the person I actually wanted to apologise. It wasn't the person I actually wanted that hug from. It's not the person I actually wanted that talk from. And I think it's just learning yourself of what you're going to get from people as well. Like we all live in such a busy lifestyle. You need to learn on who you can go to for what. And I always say to my friends as well, find your purpose with people. Everyone has a purpose for things. You two might be close buddies now because you both have a purpose to help others. But you might go to the pub with your friend later and you both have a purpose to have a pint and watch the football.
Correct.
And he's your football lad. Do you know what I mean? Like we all have different purposes for what we need. And I always say, like, especially women, we find a friend and you probably see it all the time. Like I call them bum chums. and then it always fails after a while, because women tend to like find that friend, lunch on like it's their boyfriend, and then it falls apart and then they're lost. As in, I've learned to have my selective friends are for selected things. Obviously, I'm hoping that they don't take offence to that.
No, but then people.
No, but he's
fine.
bang on. Like obviously the other day when I was a bit bad, because it was a subject that I knew he knew about, I reached out to you. Whereas
Which you wouldn't normally.
I couldn't. No, but because you understood exactly
I
because
know,
you were
I was-
there for that
I'm
Pacific.
part of the situation. Yeah.
But I knew I could reach, and he basically calmed me down. Blah blah blah. This, and put the logics behind it because he knew the subject or knew what had happened. But I couldn't go to.
So you're managing it, see?
And it's exactly what you're saying.
You're
I go
managing
to
it,
certain
knowing who
things.
to go to, and this is when I say
Yeah.
like, when it's mental health, I don't like, depending on your trauma, because obviously so many people, you know, you could have just gone on a down low and you can get back up, but some people have gone through so much trauma through childhood to adulthood, they don't know how to actually manage it. So I think sometimes you do have to sit down and manage yourself. And also I feel like so many people with mental health put so much pressure on that good day, and don't, like, if you had a bad day but you still got up and got dressed, reward yourself. Like, you don't have to be evil to yourself for not having this immaculate day that you're seeing on Instagram. Like, it's fine. Like, you know, like my bad day, sometimes I stay in bed but I still feed my kids, I still bath them, I still put them into bed, and then I go into bed and think, do you know what, like today was oh sorry don't get that on the
You
screen.
can do it. In a sense, what you're doing is physical. Like, it was horrible, and you're like,
Yeah.
it was a horrible day.
That'll be the highlight of the whole thing.
Of course.
Hey, we're making a short out of that bit.
Yeah, like, don't I've lost what I was saying, but yeah, don't like beat yourself up for it.
Yeah.
Like, it was horrible then, but tomorrow is genuinely a new day. Like, really work
that's
on
exactly-
that day.
Yeah.
And instead of like managing to be perfect and what you're imagining that you should be, just take each day at a time. And then when you get to know your purpose as well, like for instance, I believe my business saved my life as well as my kids. My kids was the reason to live, but to save me was my business.
Give you another purpose.
Because I've found something that I really enjoy doing. I love sitting with people. I love talking and finding out just one-to-one. And when they leave and I'm like, do you know what, I hope that I've helped them with whether that's their confidence, their relationship. It helps me. Like, and then, so then I look and think that is my avenue. That's my road that I need to go down. So you kind of just need to.
and now you're
just
kind of
keep
part of the
going.
open doors.
I love it. That's it. You're part
Life's
of the
a
team
bus.
now.
That's what I say. Life's a bus. You never know who's going to get on it. You never know who's going to get off it. You don't know what bumps you're going to get to in traffic lights, but you just need to keep going to wherever you're going to, and maybe plan to where you want to go to, but enjoy the journey or learn from it. if
Well,
something happens.
that kind of finished what we and you didn't even really say nothing on that one.
I
We'll
don't
leave
need
it
to say
there.
anything. Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you so much for being
Thank
a
you.
wonderful guest. We definitely having you back, and you're probably going to have your own segment anyway, so it's fine. They don't need us anymore. It's fine. Chelsea's taken over. I
Yeah,
love that.
Chelsea's going to have her own
I would
segment
actually
now.
love to join you guys on this. Cause
After that, we kind of, I think we both, me and Daniel are both on the same page. We need a segment on that one.
Yeah, there's so much for. We spoke about stuff before. There's so much stuff to talk about afterwards as well. So we're gonna have to do a part 2, part 7, part 72. You know what I mean? Just keep going.
Part 7 was Chelsea Gordon.
Yeah, I like that. Who else?
Tune in.
She's already taken over. Stop it.
She's
Stop
off
it.
already. Look.
She's doing her own little and the intros.
Series 1. episode 2.
Press stop. No, checking. Thank you so much. We'll put
That's
all of the
okay.
stuff of your socials underneath as well. So if you do want to follow Chelsea, you can do that very quickly. And if you need any help or anything like that, she'll help you with that. Or you need your nails done. Show your nails. Show your nails. Look great.
Don't know how I'm showing them.
Scott, next episode we are halfway
Yes.
to our 100. We have 50 episodes, which is incredible. And it's taken us a long time. Things don't happen overnight, and I'm glad they haven't. I'm glad I get to do this with you, because it's always
Thank
fun.
you, mate.
And I learn so much when we bring in wonderful guests that we've had today.
I've learned in pretty much now, as we're bringing more guests, I'm actually getting a little bit of something every time we do a guest. Listening, all right, maybe
That's
it's
what we should
hindsight's
be
a great thing, but knowing going forward to advise somebody else as a dad with what you said, and yeah, you don't want to do that, mate, because this will happen. But if you think about it this way, and I know understand why you're thinking that, perhaps I can change.
As
something
Chelsea
else.
says, life is like a bus. People get on, people get off, and that's what's happening.
You're going to use that now, aren't you?
Yeah, it'll be on the
You're
next one.
definitely using that one.
But I'll quote you in it.
I'm telling you what, Kai, we need to do the title's going to be "Life is like a bus."
Life is like a
We will see you next week for episode 50. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.